dear students, welcome back to Banking and Insurance Management course. As a part of this course, today we are going to discuss about the sixth lecture of first unit, that is banking reforms under this nationalization concept. As a part of this lecture, today we are going to discuss about nationalization concept. So that means what is nationalization and how it will be implemented and what are the objectives of nationalization and why the nationalization concept is implemented. You know, so all these concepts are very, very important to understand the historical evolution of banking sector in India and as well as and the developments what the government of India made in terms of banking sector, etc. Right? So at the end of this lecture, you will be able to explain about what is nationalization, why is nationalization, how the nationalization is implemented, and from this you will be able to explain about the advantages and disadvantages of nationalization. This is all about today's plan of lecture. So let's move on to the introduction. Yes friends, before going to the introduction, first let us think why are we studying this course. The nationalization concept is, of course, it's a very, very old topic which is being part of the development of banking sector. So as a part of this lecture, today the main concept of this lecture is to discuss about the historical development of the banking sector, that is the nationalization concept. Yes, under this, so this concept is very much useful to you, especially in the process of understanding banking reforms. The understanding of banking reforms is very, very essential to all you people, especially as an MBA finance student. You must be able to explain about the historical development of banking sector. So that is the reason why this concept is very, very useful to you. And apart from this, in the process of knowing the development of banking sector, there were a lot of developments being placed in the entire banking sector since 14th century. That's what we already discussed in the last lecture, right? So in order to identify the developments and in order to understand the developments of banking sector, definitely this lecture will helpful to you to understand the development of banking sector. And especially in the process of building your professional career in your dream job. Suppose if you wanted to choose your job in banking sector, definitely you must undergo the basic concepts of bank and as well as the historical evolution of bank. Yes, this concept will give you the complete knowledge about various developments and its own conceptual developments of various reforms, banking reforms, that is nationalization concept. Therefore, this lecture is highly helpful to you. This is all about the importance of today's lecture. Let's move on to the introduction. Yes, friends, do you know the primary role of RBI? So, yes, what is the primary role of RBI? Friends, do you know the primary role of RBI? I think you are very much familiar about the concept called RBI. I mean, the role of RBI, etc. So RBI is a central bank. That's what already you studied, and it will act as a master bank and it will regulate and control the total system of banking sector in our country, right? So especially let us try to understand what is the main core role of RBI in the words of Chintaman, Sri Chintaman Dwarkanath Deshmukh. So before going to the statement, so who is Chintaman Dwarkanath Deshmukh? Do you know that? So who is the first governor of Reserve Bank of India? So in his leadership, there was a lot of regulations was taken place. That is the reason why today I would like to give you the statement of Sri Deshmukh ji. Yes, let's see what is that. Yes, from this statement you can identify the main core role of RBI in according to the Chintaman Dwarkanath Deshmukh ji. Yes, here the main role of RBI, yes, Reserve Bank of India, in dealing with banking system, that is you are very much familiar about it, right? So RBI is dealing with Indian banking system, no doubt. So it will regulate and control the total system of banking sector. So what does it mean? Yes, what exactly the main core role in accordance with the Deshmukh ji? Yes, let's understand. So RBI, of course, it's regulate the total system of banking in our country, means it does not lie in the multiplicity of banks. That means what? It does not lie in the multiplicity of bank or banking. That means it does not mean that increasing number of branches in our banking sector. Yes, so there can be no standard treatment. there can be no standard treatment, or in practice through theory the same law of governance to all the banks. Let's move on to the banking reforms before nationalization. Yes friends, before moving on to the introduction concept of nationalization, let me introduce two important banking reforms. That is one, Banking Regulation Act 1949 and the SBA Act 1955. So both were formulated under the leadership of Deshmukhji. Yes, you know that. So what says Banking Regulation Act? So in according to the Banking Regulation Act, yes friends, so no bank can start new branch, because so if you wanted to start your own branch or new bank, definitely you should get approval from RBI. So they should, without approval from RBI, Reserve Bank of India. This is what the main core objective of Banking Regulation Act. So in according to the Banking Regulation Act, there is no bank can start their new branch or new unit so without permission from RBI. This is first and foremost objective of Banking Regulation Act. And second objective of Banking Regulation Act is there is no common director, no common directors for two banks. Yes, for two banks. There is no right to act as a director for two branch as a common director. So this is what the main, because in order to control the total system of banking sector, so RBI has initiated the Banking Regulation Act in the year 1949. So that before going to the nationalization, first let us start with the Banking Regulation Act 1949 and it's the main objective of this. Yes, from this, of course, so another core act of banking reforms, that is State Bank Act 1955. You know, so before State Bank, there was a bank called Imperial Bank of India. So Imperial Bank of India was nationalized after State Bank Act of 1955. How it is? Let's see. Yes friends, the second major banking reform was SBA Act 1955. It was so enacted from 8th May 1955. Yes, and after this, from 1st July, so 1955, State Bank of India, what we call it as SBI, was nationalized. Nationalized, you know that? Why the State Bank was nationalized? Before going that, before SBI, what was the bank called? Imperial Bank. You know Imperial Bank? Imperial Bank of, so before that it was Imperial Bank, so which was controlled by Britishers. Actually in the year 1921 there are three banks of imperial banks. Of course they were merged together and they'll call it as an Imperial Bank. You know that? So Presidential Bank of, that is what Presidential Bank, there are three presidential banks, namely Bank of Bombay and Bank of Calcutta, right? Bank of Chennai. I mean what we call it as Chennai, that time Madras. So it was Bank of Madras. Yes friends, so all three banks say they merged together in the year 1921 and they comes under Imperial Bank. They'll call it as Imperial Bank. This was the history what we discussed in the yesterday's class, last class. Yes, this Imperial Bank now nationalized and they name it as State Bank of India. Now they name it as State Bank of India, and it was nationalized from 1st July 1955. And under the State Bank of India, so on 19th July 1960, so there were 8 banks were attached to the State Bank control. So there were 8 banks attached. Let's see what are the 8 banks. On 19th July 1960, that is the first phase of nationalization, we call it as. So in this day, on this date, there are 8 banks were attached to SBI, State Bank of India. So what are the 8 banks? So let's see one by one. State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur, State Bank of Jaipur, right? And State Bank of Patiala and State Bank of Hyderabad State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Indore, right? And State Bank of Saurashtra and State Bank of Travancore. Yes, friends. So all these banks here, 1, this is 2 and 3, 4 and 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So all the banks now are under control of State Bank of India. That is, now they are called it as subsidiary banks of State Bank. This was the first phase of nationalization. First, let us start with this, right? So before and after this, so why the nationalization concept is coming to picture? Yes, let's discuss first. So prior to 1960, except State Bank of India and its own subsidiary banks, all are under private sector. Yes, friends, as we already discussed here, so in the before slide, yes, nationalization of banking concept is, of course, till today there was a so nationalization, the concept called nationalization was an aggressive decision was taken by Srimati Indira Gandhi, so the Prime Minister of India, in the year 1969. Yes, so what was the concept behind it? What is the need behind it? Let's discuss. So here nationalization of banks, of course, it is arguably the biggest debate even today. So because it was a structural reform, even all opposition parties were not accepted those time. So, but it was a structural reform introduced in the entire Indian financial sector. Yes, no doubt. So for the first time in the year 1969, so all the banks of India except State Bank and its own subsidiary banks remaining all are under private sector. So you know the domination of private sector. So due to the monopoly, and they created a lot of monopoly, and the total funding and the total deposits and even the total loans are limited to limited people, selected people. So that entire financial system is being controlled by only private people in those days. So in order to overcome that problem, in order to take the control over the total banking system, so that time the Srimati Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India, was taken initiative to go for nationalization concept. Yes, so this is what the history behind the nationalization concept. So when there are many private banks, I mean all are private banks in those time, so except State Bank and its subsidiary banks remaining all are under private bank. So how they implemented the nationalization, let's see one by one. So 19th July 1969, so 14 banks were nationalized. Yes, friends, 14 banks were nationalized. So what are those 14 banks? Let's see. So that is Allahabad Bank, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, BOI, what we call it as, and Canara Bank, Central Bank of India, that is CBI, Dena Bank, Indian Bank, IOB, Indian Overseas Bank, that's what we call it as IOB, Indian Overseas Bank, and Punjab National Bank, Punjab National Bank, and Syndicate Bank, and Bank of Maharashtra. Yes, friends, and Union Bank, United Bank of India, and UCO Bank. So these all 14 banks, one Allahabad Bank, and here second one is Bank of Baroda, and third one is Bank of India, fourth one Canara Bank, fifth one Central Bank of India, sixth one Dena Bank, seventh one Indian Bank, so eighth one Indian Overseas Bank, and ninth one Punjab National Bank, and 10th one Syndicate Bank, and 11th one Bank of Maharashtra, and Union Bank, and United Bank of India, and UCO Bank. Yes, friends, these are all 14 banks for the first time in the history. So in a single slot they were nationalized. That means the entire capital is being sponsored by Government of India. So from 19th July 1969 onwards, they'll comes under public sector banks. Yes, this is the second phase of nationalization. This is what we call it as second phase of nationalization. Yes, friends. So as we already, first phase means the first phase. So State Bank of India was nationalized, and it has taken over 8 subsidiary banks control also. That is the first phase. This is the second phase. Under second phase, there are 14 banks were taken into consideration. Government of India has declared as a nationalized banks. Yes, friends, this is all about second phase. Okay, friends, let's move on to the third phase of nationalization concept. So that is in the year 1980. So Government of India has taken initiative to go with another group of 6 banks were nationalized. So on 16th April 1980, so 6 more banks were nationalized. 6 more banks were nationalized. Only reason, so to initiate social banking and to create mass banking facility. You know, so before 1980, so the total banking services is being held by only limited people. It was reaching to only limited people in those days, right? So that in order to increase the services among all the people of India, so the government has taken initiative, 6 more banks, definitely they'll go for nationalization. That is only reason. One is to increase the social banking and to increase the mass banking facility. So what are the 6 banks? Let us see one by one. So first one is Punjab Sindh Bank. So before 1980, it was a private sector bank. And second one is Vijaya Bank. And third one is Oriental Bank. And fourth one is so Andhra Bank. And fifth one is Corporation Bank. and of course the final one is New Bank of India. So all three banks again there comes under nationalization. Yes friends, so this is what the third phase, this is what third phase of nationalization. Third phase means it is expansion phase, because in second phase the government has already taken initiative and they were converted 14 banks nationalized in second phase, that is in the year 1969, you know that. So this is what the third phase of nationalization. Yes, so with this note let's move on to the more core objectives behind the nationalization. Let's see one by one. Yes friends, till now we have seen three phases of nationalization of banking sector, that is in the year 1955. Of course this is what first phase of nationalization. So here State Bank of India was converted into a national bank. So the first State Bank of India was nationalized in the year 1955, and later in the year 1969 again 14 banks nationalized. Again there are 14 banks were nationalized, and again in the year 1980, so six more banks were nationalized. Yes friends, so this is what we call it as first phase, this is second phase, and this is all third phase. This is what till now we have discussed about all three phases of nationalization. Yes, now let's see why the government has taken initiative to go with the nationalization. That means what are the advantages of nationalization and what are the importances and what are the core objectives of nationalization. Let's see one by one. So yes, to control the private monopolies. Yes, as we already discussed, in private sector, yes, the total control is being held by private people only. So that in order to control the total private sector banking, this government has taken initiative. And second one is expansion of banking. So before 1969 and before 1980, there are only limited branches. So after nationalization only, almost 800% of deposits increased, and 1100% of loans were increased. You know that? So this is only happening after nationalization only. So that in order to increase the number of branches, so government has taken initiative to expand the banking. Yes, and of course to reduce the regional imbalances. You know that. So in those days only the entire financial system and financial banking system was being controlled by only limited people. So selectively they have sanctioned loans to some business people and some industry people only. They are not reaching to all economic class of people. So that is reason why, so to reduce the regional imbalances, because those time only very few areas may be taken so initiative and to go with banking and banking facilities, and other majority of 67% of the total population is not having any banking facility in that time. So that is reason why, so to reduce the regional imbalances, the government has taken initiative to go for nationalization. And one more reason, control of used resources. You know, so when we have the banking system, it is huge chances to mobilize funds from the public, and it will give the same funds to public again in the form of loans. So only it can be possible through nationalization. So after nationalization only, government has taken initiative and government taken the total control of the entire banking sector, and they given a lot of resources, a lot of funding support to the banking sector, and through the banking sector the total financial resources will be reached to the common mans and common people. So that is also one of the reason. And of course next reason is attention to private sector. No, so as we already discussed, yes, the total banking system is being controlled by private sector people. So in order to overcome this, yes, government has taken more focus on the private sector and how to reduce the control and how to reduce the monopoly of private control and private sector management. So in that situation, the government has taken initiative to go for nationalization. And of course efficiency argument. You know, so before 1969 there was huge fight among the private people only. So efficiency is a big matter. So in private sector, again, very few banks are there and very few branches are available in those days. There is not much more competition on this. So later of 1980, so a lot of branches were increased and a lot of efficiency, of course, efficiency is a matter in those time. So in that situation, government has taken a lot of initiatives to develop the entire banking spectrum and the total banking system in our control. So that in order to increase the efficiency of banking sector, the government has taken this initiative. And of course, from this, so majority of the banks were under control of profitability. No, so when we attached eight subsidiary banks to the SBI, so except SBI, so in the year 1969, so except SBI and its subsidiary, majority of the private sector banks are comes under bankruptcy. You know the meaning of bankruptcy? They are comes under bankruptcy in situation because they are unable to clear their debts, unable to pay their loans. Because of that, one of the reason, so in order to convert the banking sector into profitable unit, so the government has taken this initiative. And of course, in order to implement uniform banking policy, so in private control there is no uniform rules and there is no uniform policies among the public. So selectively they have selected very few people to sanction the loans and all, right? So but today what we enjoyed, yes, it is equal right to everybody. So everyone have a right to claim and have a right to take loan based on the need and situation. Yes, so that is reason why in order to implement the uniform banking policy, the government has taken initiative to go for nationalization. And next reason is to encourage the banking habit. So in that time before 1980, so as we already discussed, very few people have aware about banking facilities and they use the banking facility. So in order to encourage the saving habit among the public, so intentionally the government has taken initiative in the form of nationalization, and from this they increase the number of branches and number of so units, etc., and facilities of banking sector also. And to prevention of money lenders, that is also one more reason. So in those days, the entire money is being held by very few people. So in order to control the total control of money lenders, means so Jains and goldsmiths and Shawkaris, they have taken a majority of role in rural sector, especially in the area of regional areas and rural areas. So in order to control this monopoly, government has taken initiative nationalization. From this, government has started the banking in rural area also. And from this, ultimately the government wanted to so increase the facilities among all group of people. That is what social welfare is the main core objective of nationalization, right? So this is all about the total main core objectives of nationalization. Let's move on to the how the nationalization was implemented by a government. Hello friends, let's see how the government was taken initiative, the nationalization concept, and how it was implemented. Let us understand one by one. Yes, so first one is create the role lead banking. Yes, now what is the lead bank in our country? What is the first and foremost lead bank? That is SBI. Even today, SBI is one and only the bank which having largest number of branches in our country, right? So that is what, to create the lead bank role. So the bank should be in front line, so in which where the funding is to be distributed to the public. So the government has taken initiative and give the first priority to the banking sector to distribute the fruits of the entire banking system and government schemes. So that is what, so by creating the role of lead banking system, yes, so one area has adopted to one bank, and one district is being adopted to another bank, and one regional area is being adopted to another bank. Like this, yes, they have created a lead role and attached those areas to given banks. So from that way, so nationalization concept was implemented. And allotment of districts, as we already discussed, yes, all the banks is being allotted some districts. Yes, means, so for example, Visakhapatnam district is being allotted to one nationalized bank. Like this, every district is having their own nationalized bank. So through this, the government has started so initiative to distribute the funds to the common people. Yes, that is also one of the way out. And next one is branch licensing policy. See, as we all know that, so after 1949 Banking Regulation Act, yes, every branch, even every bank should take permission from RBI. You know that. So to start any branch, you should take permission from RBI. So when you apply for RBI permission, definitely RBI is supposed to implement the common policy and uniform policy to everybody. So that is the reason why in order to control the licensing also it has been implemented. And next important one is credit deposit ratio. You know that credit deposit ratio. So before nationalization, the entire system is being controlled by private people. There is no government control over the banking sector. So once nationalization implemented, so CDR has been implemented. That is CDR, credit deposit ratio. How it will be? Let's see. For example, credit to deposit ratio. So what are the total deposits? What are the amount of total loans? So that means, so bank offers advances out of their own funds, I mean their deposits. Yes, for example, State Bank of India have their own deposits, suppose 1 lakh crores. 1 lakh crores of deposits they have it in State Bank. And out of 1 lakh crore, how much the amount is supposed to allow to give advances or loan to the public? So this is what the ratio between advances to deposits is called it as credit deposit ratio. This is loan amount. So loan, for example, 80,000 crores. That means what? So here the ratio is 80%. That means here credit deposit ratio, yes, this is what the procedure to calculate credit deposit ratio. Simply, so the ratio between advances to deposits is called it as credit deposit ratio. So this was now is under control of RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So that is the reason why this is also one of the reason. And credit planning, you know that credit planning. So the government of India through RBI, means RBI has given the total rules and regulations how to maintain the credit planning and what is the cash reserve ratio. Every bank has to keep minimum statutory liquidity ratio and minimum cash reserve ratio. So according to the RBI guidelines, every bank has to follow the rules and that is what basic credit planning is being implemented through nationalization only. And through nationalization, so the government has estimated some key areas, I mean key sectors. So especially, so tribal areas, and they have set up separate funding to the tribal development. And of course, scheduled caste and scheduled backward classes, even BCs, and all the scheduled caste and backward classes, all categories of areas they were identified and they started funding to develop the sectorial development also. And of course, the government is also estimated so priority sectors like agriculture sector. So the first, in order to develop that agriculture sector, the government has started thinking to create a separate banks for the development of agriculture sector, etc. So this is what one of the way out to implement the nationalization. And the last one is deposit mobilization. Through deposit mobilization, see nowadays, so it is an open offer for everybody, right? So any Indian can deposit their money, can save their money into bank account to get the interest. So in order to create the saving habit among the public, so only the way out is through nationalization. It was possible only through nationalization. So nationalization has given an initiative to make and to increase the deposit and increase the saving habit among the public. And deposit mobilization also so gradually increased, almost it was increased to 800% after nationalization. So this is all about the implementation procedure of nationalization of banks in our country. Let's see. Yes friends, before going to the conclusion, let's see what are the benefits of nationalization. Yes, till now we have discussed about what is nationalization, what are the phases of nationalization. About first phase, that is in the year 1955, SBI was taken initiative and they converted as a national bank. And in the year 1960, 8 more banks were attached to the SBI as a subsidiary units. And in the year 1969, 14 banks were nationalized. And in the year 1980, 6 more banks were nationalized. This is all various 3 phases. Now let's see the benefits benefits of nationalization, that is advantages of nationalization. Yes friends, nationalization of course it safeguards the interest of laborers. You know, today every common man, even every employer, every common people like labor, everyone is having saving account. So they can deposit even 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 100 rupees. Yes, it's safeguards their money. Only public sector bank can only 100% guaranteed to safeguard their money. Yes, that is the first advantage. And through national banks, technical efficiency and low cost of production is also possible. So only government banks, only nationalized banks only can offer low cost of services, low cost of benefits to the public. That is also one of the advantage. And next advantage, cooperation and prosperity of all. So here public sector banks is looking at always uniform policy to everybody, right? They always consider the policies and procedure equally to everybody. Therefore, so the total cooperation and prosperity of all is also very possible through in only public sector banks. And of course public sector banks also increase the earnings of the state. And after nationalization, so the lot of deposit strength has been increased, and every bank have their own strengths and has increased huge amounts of deposits. From that they created profits also, so and they created a lot of funding to the state also, and control over the prices of war supplies. And you know, so before nationalization the full control over by only private sector people. So that time there is no pricing mechanism, there was no common uniform policy to create the pricing mechanism and all, right? So in that situation of course the entire, the total system is being converted to government once if it is nationalized and all the uniform policies is been implemented. From this the total control of prices, everything is being done by only through RBI. So RBI has fixed the common price for everybody. Yes, that is also one of the advantage. And next one is employment opportunities. So by the way of increasing the number of branches in our country, a lot of bank jobs now created. So even today, one and only the sector which creates a lot of employment in our country and which generates a lot of income to the government also, that is only the banking sector. So that too from the public sector units. And economic and political growth. You know, so only national banks can create a lot of economic and political growth also. Yes, it's create a lot of money to the government, it's create a lot of funding to the government, and of course the political stability is also stabilized. I mean political strength is also increased to the government, etc., right? So that is also one of the advantage. And removal of barriers. You know, so there were a lot of barriers in the private sector banking. So now after nationalization there is a uniform policy for everywhere in our country, so all the sectorial benefits will get into the same line and same benefits. Therefore entirely they remove the total barriers among the sectorial barriers, like so various group of people and various group of sectors, etc. And of course through nationalization it enables banks to widen its growth also. Suddenly, you know, so initially the State Bank of India and its own subsidiary banks only 8 plus 1. Later the suddenly the growth of State Bank now totally changed. The bank which is having highest number of branches even in the world today is only State Bank. Only it is possible through the government initiative of nationalization. And of course nationalization expands the branch networking, and of course it reorientation of bank lending also. And time to time the government has taken initiative to change the policies, and RBI has totally controlled the total system of banking, and RBI itself it changes the repo and reverse repo rate, so in order to go with the smooth functioning and to distribute equal financial aid to all the people. The best example at this moment is demonetization during the COVID. So due to COVID-19 pandemic, the government of India has taken initiative about demonetization. You know that? So that was implemented through RBI, through the entire banking sector equally to all the people. It was only possible through nationalization. Yes friends, this is all about the advantages and benefits of nationalization. Let's see what are the drawbacks, that means cons of nationalization. Yes friends, so before going to the conclusion, let me discuss about the drawbacks of nationalization. You know, one side of the coin there is huge amount of benefits. I mean there are lot of benefits to the public and as well government also. And on the other side of the coin, yes, there are some drawbacks of nationalization behind its own implementation and the consequences of implementation. Let's see one by one. So the first problem is inadequate banking facility. Even though even today majority of the areas in our country, especially underdeveloped area called tribal areas and backward class areas, are not having the banking facility even today. So because of the failure of the government, because the government is unable to expand the banking sector, but government is of course not allowing any private banks to set up their own entities before 1991 liberalization. Yes, that is what one of the major drawback. And second drawback is lack of freedom. Yes, in the nationalization, after nationalization, in the public sector banking, there is no freedom. The entire control is being over by only RBI and Government of India. So there is no individual control over the entire system of banking. So even the manager of bank or CMD of bank or managing director of bank or GM of bank, they have to act in according to the RBI guidelines only. Because of that is also one of the, because they are unable to take quick decisions to go with better possible financial viability. And next one is lack of spirit of competition, because all are in public sector, there is no competition among the public sector units, because so all are treated as a government employees, all are public sector employees, because they are getting the salaries on time, because they are act as banking intermediation in accordance with the RBI guidelines, because there is no much variation between the bank and bank, because it does not create any competition among the banking units. That's also one of the reason for non-developing of banking sector. And rigid system, yes, the entire banking system is being controlled by RBI. So only RBI, in accordance with the RBI guidelines only we have to act. So that's very rigid system. Because of that is also one of the problem which cannot be able to supply the banking services to the common people. And of course less intervention of public in economic affairs. So public sector bank is, of course, it is operated by the manager of bank, but it is being controlled over by RBI. So there is no public intervention, I mean there is no public authority and there is no public participation in the entire banking sector. So that is also one of the reason to get into more services to the public. Yes. So and lowered efficiency and profits. For that reason, because all our government and all our public sector units, because they are less in front of services, because okay, that's okay, because so they are having only very lowered efficiency profits, and they are not much concentrating on giving more and more services to the public, because yes, just like that they are maintaining the banking sector, because they are under public sector units. And political and administrative interferences, this is what one more reason to failure of nationalization. Yes, political interference, all the way the government of India has been interfere and through the RBI, because of course so there is no common system of unique rules for individual banks, because the government interference. So time to time the political stability, because of no time to time there is no stability of the government and the political lack of political stability, that is also one of the reason. So the successful implementation of nationalization. And of course the increased expenditure, so the day to day the expenditure of bank and the running expenditure, maintenance expenditure is being increased day to day. Because of that is also one of the reason to get low profits, because income over expenditure means so expenditure over income, because expenses are more than the income. That is the reason why majority of the public sector banks is also comes under bankruptcy in that time. So these are all various drawbacks of nationalization. Let's move on to the conclusion. Yes friends, before going to the conclusion, just I would like to present the news article published in the year 1969. There was a big article in Times of India, that is 14 top banks are nationalized. This was article, very famous article published in Times of India. So the decision has been taken by Srimati Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India, in the year 1969. So this is what the concept of nationalization. And before going to the conclusion, let me summarize the total concept what we discussed till now, right? So initially we start with the concept called nationalization, means what do you mean by nationalization, and what are the phases of nationalization also we have covered. That means in the first phase, 1955, Government of India has taken initiative so to nationalize the State Bank of India. So previously it was called it as Imperial Bank. So it was now comes under nationalization in the year 1955. And later in the year 1960, so there were 8 banks were taken under control of SBI. So SBI has given control over 8 banks, and they were converted as a subsidiary banks of State Bank of India. And in the year 1969, 14 banks were nationalized with the decision of Srimati Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India. That was the second phase of nationalization. And in the year 1980, that is the third expansion phase of nationalization. So that is 8 more banks were nationalized in the year 1980. Yes, this is all about the total concept of nationalization. So from this topic, you will have a couple of questions like, what do you mean by nationalization? Briefly explain about various phases of nationalization. Like this, you will have a question in the examination point of view. So in that situation, you have to explain all the concept what we discussed in the today's lecture. This is all about the total concept of nationalization. See what is the next topic. Yes, in the next lecture, we are going to discuss about the role of Reserve Bank of India. So from this lecture, we are going to discuss about the basic and primary role of RBI, and what are the major functions of RBI, and what are the lead role of RBI. So all will be discussed in the next lecture. Let's meet again in the next lecture. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks a lot.